Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Black Health Podcast. I'm Paula.
And I'm Mercy.
What's up, everybody? It's Matthew.
And I'm Khadijah.
Yeah, so how are y'all doing today?
You know, it's been a wild day. I've seen some wild stuff happening today, but it's a good Wednesday.
What'd you see?
This white woman left her baby in the minivan with the doors open.
It's too hot for that.
That's what I said. It's too hot.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
She said it was a good breeze outside and she had both of the rolling doors open.
The baby was in the car seat.
Mm-hmm. Baby was in the car seat.
Sweating.
Her and her husband was inside Krog Street with their other kids and had left that one in the
Did they
car.
have a camera? Somebody take the baby.
Get your car, people.
No, it was me and this older black guy sitting outside. And so I look at the van, he look at the van, then we look at each other. And he's like, do we call the police? I was like, I think we just mind our business, but just make sure no one take the baby.
Yeah,
And then this
Trying to
little
have a
bicycle.
non-carceral solution.
Yeah, because I don't know. Yeah. And then this bicycle cop rolls up and the lady comes outside at that point and they talk and he bike on.
No.
And
no,
then she go back inside. And she go and leave the kids still in the car.
We know if that was not a white lady.
Okay.
Jail.
It sounds like
Yeah,
a trap.
literally.
It sounds like
It
a
was-
setup.
It was something. I don't know what was going on. I was just like, I'm just going to eat my chicken.
And then you said she had said like her and her husband already had 2 kids, so there was one kid too many.
And
like,
then they were like, that kid was sleeping and they didn't have a stroller. So they just were like, we just going to let him rock out in the car.
Without a stroller?
I mean, and I'm like, you got 3. So like, I feel like by the 3rd one, you should have a grip on like what you need when you go out
or
with your
you're just
kids.
gonna
On the
have to
baby
carry
care.
the baby. You can't leave the
Right,
baby in the car.
other 2 kids were walking. So it's not like they couldn't just carry
How
one.
old was the baby?
They had to at least be like maybe like 1.5, 2.
Nah, that's crazy.
That's young.
Yeah, like they were little. And then I saw him like wake up in the car. He looking around all crazy, like look sweaty. Like
no.
it was a mess.
Dang.
But
Yeah.
just another day in Atlanta, I guess.
Americans are so crazy, y'all. Like being back here, I'm like, what is going on?
Culture shock.
Yeah. But that wasn't our icebreaker. So
Right.
to get into our icebreaker question for today. So this question is based off of another podcast that I listen to. It's called The Scam Goddess. Y'all should get into it. It's hosted by this girl named Lacey Mosley. She plays iCarly's black friend on the new iCarly, the grown-up iCarly. She's her friend.
I've never seen iCarly.
Oh,
I
iCarly
haven't
is
either. I didn't have
so
cable
good.
as a
Oh,
youth,
okay.
though.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Oh,
right.
true.
I mean, forgetting your story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Missed
No,
out.
iCarly was good. It was really entertaining. But anyway, yeah, she also hosts this podcast called Scam Goddess, and it's so funny. So she always asks her guests at the beginning of the podcast, have you ever been scammed? What's your relationship with scams? Have you ever committed a scam? So all of those things that's our icebreaker today too. So start with, I heard Khadijah has a very good story to tell us.
I have a scam
Scammy
that
scam.
not everyone's heard about. Matthew's heard about this, but this scam impacted me, and it impacted the students of Emory University as well and the broader community. And it's the Emory Migos scam. So this happened spring 2017. So this would have been, we graduated in spring 2016. Yeah.
Damn.
So like a year after we left. But so, like at universities, like there's a student organization or whatever that coordinates the concerts for the university. And Emory's had like good concerts before. Like when we were there,
J. Cole
was
Yeah,
there. Mac Miller's been there. Kendrick. And so I saw a promotion that Migos were gonna be there for like the spring concert, I guess. Yeah, spring semester.
This is starting to come back to me now. Explaining it, yeah.
Yeah. And apparently it was a scammer that had reached out to this Emory like student group that was coordinating the concert series.
What?
And they fell for it, and they paid the scammer thinking it was the Migos team or whatever, like $40,000 or something.
Oh no!
That's so embarrassing.
To come perform, and they started advertising it. They had a whole little like video and all that stuff.
Honestly, that's such a good scam.
That is.
Really smart.
That is.
And you
But
know,
damn.
for students, it was honestly, it was probably.
So did they find out they were scammed before the concert?
Like,
It was,
well enough
it was
before?
before the concert, but it was after they already started like advertising everything.
Yeah, they probably saw the ads and were like, "We aren't scheduled to be at."
Yeah. That's probably how they found out it was a scam. But they had to like scramble and find like another act. I thought it was the chain smokers that was the other act, but I think the chain smokers performed when we were there.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
Ty
I remember
Dolla
that.
Sign, which is not that's still good.
Yeah, I like Ty Dolla
Yeah.
Sign. He's gonna be here in October,
Oh really?
Was he as big at the time though?
2017.
Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah,
I like Ty
Yeah.
Dolla Sign though too, but yeah.
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 And then so I was like catching up to see like what like actually happened, and this person, Octavian Woods.
Octavian.
That's a scammer?
Shout out
That's his
Octavian.
name.
Damn, Octavian.
So they were sentenced to 4 years in federal prison.
Damn.
Okay, that was not a great scam.
right.
You got
Ugh.
caught.
Yeah.
Can't
Is that
get
like
caught.
yeah, if you get caught, is it still a scam?
I feel like yes.
It
I
is.
mean, yeah.
This is unsuccessful.
Unsuccessful
Yeah.
scam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of successful for a point. A little bit.
I'm sure he balled out.
With that 40 bands for sure.
For a minute.
Hope
Yeah.
it was worth it, Octavian.
I don't think so.
Well, I guess
4
he
years?
should be out by
He should
now.
be out. Yeah.
Yeah, we should follow up. Octavian Woods. if you're
Someone
out
find
there.
him on Facebook.
If you're out there,
We got
with-
some questions.
Come to the pod. We'd like to talk.
We just want to chat.
email engage at blackhouse.com.
Don't scam us though.
Right, don't
Talk
scam
to
us.
Octavian.
But yeah, that's my scam.
Wow, that's crazy.
So did you fall for it? Did you buy a ticket?
So it was free. Actually,
Oh,
for
that's
alumni,
right.
I don't know. I think you can still go to concerts as alumni. I'm
Yeah, I
not
think
sure how
so.
that works.
Oh, okay, cool.
We have access to a lot of stuff still.
Yeah.
I didn't know. that.
But I fell for it because
Yeah,
it
why
was
not?
a believable like Migos
Yeah.
from Atlanta, like
Because they do
Exactly.
usually have good concerts. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 'cause wasn't Earth Gang there that year J. Cole came to?
It was a lot of good people, yeah.
I forgot about that.
And DJ Khaled, I remember that.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm currently being scammed.
no.
I'm in the midst of a scam.
Oh,
My landlord from South Africa,
Uh-oh.
this bitch does not want to give me my security deposit back. And it's a lot of money. Because she asked me for like 2 months of rent at the beginning. And I was like, what? But I really needed an apartment.
Right.
So I paid her the money. And yeah, I mean, it was just like a regular security deposit or whatever. So like, yeah, so I'm waiting for her. Like, since I've moved, like nothing was wrong with the apartment. Like, it's the same apartment, you know, and then there's like, I mean, there's like little stuff or whatever, but it's not enough to like justify
Keep
her
your
trying to
deposit.
take all my money. Yeah. Like, actually none of the money. It's like, to me, it's stuff that as a landlord, you just have to do when a tenant leaves. Like,
Yeah.
but I cleaned the apartment and everything. I hired a cleaner to come and all of that. And so, yeah, so now they're trying to say like, oh, it was all this damage. Like, she got all these people emailing me, like these people from this property company she works with. She's saying like, oh, you damaged it, you did this, and like they're taking pictures of stuff and like circling in red, nothing.
Oh no.
It's like, what the hell are you circling on it?
Right,
Like,
what
they
am I
took a
looking
picture
at?
of like the light, like the ceiling fan, and circled it. I was like, what? Yes, it's the ceiling fan. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like they really think they being slick. Like, I'm like, y'all about to piss me the fuck off. So I've contacted a lawyer in South Africa, and yeah, so now I'm working with a lawyer. I must get my money back because otherwise I'm about to have to roll up on her, and I will because I am going back to South Africa.
Right. Like, it's not like you're never going
I'm already
back.
going at the end of the year, so I was like, lady, I will find you. I will roll up on you. Like, don't play with me.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So now I'm like in this
I feel
legal
like
battle.
security deposits are a scam anyway.
They
are.
They
They
really
are.
are. Like,
Because, like, what you need it for?
I mean, to protect the property, but
Yeah.
But like,
But
you're just gonna make me pay it at the end anyway.
right.
So she was supposed to have kept it in our contract. And I don't know if it's the same in the States, but maybe. But like, she's supposed to keep it in an account, like an interest-bearing account. And I don't think she did. And I think she ain't got it. And so that's why she's trying to.
Oh, that's probably definitely what it is.
Yeah, and I don't think she hasn't found a new tenant. And I think she mad about that. But it's like, that's not my fault. Like, I left, I stayed there the whole year. That was the other thing. When we were about to sign the lease, I actually didn't know if I wanted to sign it for a year at the time, but they were like, no, the landlord really wants a tenant that's going to stay for a year. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll sign a year-long lease. And then I stayed the whole year. And then I was like, well, I'm not staying any longer. I got to go back to the United States. And so I don't think she got a new tenant, so she mad.
And
Girl,
you
salty.
broke that ceiling fan.
Right. Circled. She showed you.
I did not break that ceiling fan.
Maybe Martin did it.
Maybe Martin did it.
Martin hanging from the ceiling fan when you at work.
But then
have we introduced Martin to the podcast yet?
I think so. I think I've talked about him on here. Yeah, but he's in America now.
Martin
crazy.
Woofer. How does he like it?
He likes it, but I think he's allergic to something in the grass.
Oh,
I could see that.
Yeah, because he keeps like looking at his paws, and the vet was saying he might have like an allergy or something. So she told me to give him Claritin.
poor Martin.
But yeah, he's doing good. He's getting a lot of attention from his family, his grandma and grandpa, and his uncle Dougie. Giving him a lot of attention. So
he's loving it.
Yeah,
Martin's like, I have all these friends.
Yeah. What about you, Mercy? What's your scam? What's your relationship with scams?
My relationship with scam is very personal, and I feel like it will touch a lot of people. I have been scammed by the American government and the American dream. You know, I was in high school just living my life. Everyone's like, go to college. It's okay. Take out your loans. You'll get a good job and you'll be able to pay them off. Real easy. It'll be so quick.
That's what they told us.
When I graduated and did my exit loan counseling, Nelnet told me that I would need to make $300,000 a year to pay my student loans off in 10 years.
I like that.
I said, can I take
That's
this to my
realistic.
employer? Can I take this to my employer and tell them this is my requested salary? So I feel like I got scammed because now what? I'm not going to pay that shit off. And I've accepted that. I've forgiven myself for taking out those loans.
Scam back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Me too.
Instead of loan forgiveness, self-forgiveness. I love that.
Yeah. I have forgiven myself. I thought I was doing the right thing. And because that's what they told me I should do. And so that is what I did. And, Black, poor, my parents ain't have money to just pay out of pocket to send me to school. So, yeah. But I've forgiven myself. I've moved on. So I hope the U.S. government moves on as well.
Me too. And if they are really they really are acting like they're bringing student loans back.
Yeah.
I keep reading the emails like,
Girl, stop it.
girl.
Like, girl, hang it up. hang it up, sis.
Hang it up.
I ain't paid this shit for
I'm
3 years. Clearly.
I'm not interested.
It's not going to happen. It's not going
Like
to happen,
that meme
girl.
where the guy just clicks the phone like,
Right.
no.
Get off my line, baby, because... Listen, boo, I ain't got it. Like, even if I did have it, I ain't got it for you.
Yeah, like they're bugging.
They're
Too
crazy.
much money.
Yeah.
I think you can get a $300,000 salary though. I believe
Think
in
so?
you. I do.
That's not the point.
Right. Because even then, like I said, still, hell nah. Not paying them $2,000 a month.
Hell
Please.
no.
Fuck out of here.
That's a mortgage.
God,
That's
that
what I'm
literally
saying.
is, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so you want me to choose student loans over like living expenses? That sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. And we all know what hell happening with the housing market right now. This lady said the average 2-bedroom apartment in Atlanta was $1,200. I said, girl, what year you pull that data from? What yeah. I was like, what year that's from?
2-bedroom.
Yeah. I said, girl, I live
That's
in a
not
2-bedroom
even
right now,
a
and my
studio.
shit is underpriced.
That is not even a studio anymore. Like,
Girl, it is nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was
No.
like, I don't know where you got that from, but yeah. How about you, Matthew?
I had to think long and hard about my scam.
I heard you scrambling before
Yeah.
we started the episode.
I mean, I'm just impervious to the scam. I got my scam deflectors on. But I remember in high school, I was on the track team, and we had lockers, and so I just purchased some real crispy Air Force Ones, lows, and I get back to my locker. No forces in there.
Oh no!
Damn.
And so I'm looking around, like looking at other people's lockers, like, yo, what's up?
You were a victim.
And this person, I won't say his name, starts to help
Call
me.
him out.
And he's like, yo, who took my boy's shoes? Who took his stuff? And I'm just like, all right, I appreciate the help. And then come to find out, he was the one that stole them.
How you find that out?
Goddamn.
Because everybody else told me.
Yeah.
And they were like, yo, he took your stuff, man. He ain't never helped nobody else out.
Oh.
That is not his spirit. He's not a helpful
That's
guy.
not his spirit.
Yeah, come to find out, he took my stuff. And so
Wow.
I ended up confronting him. He was like, nah, man, these are... Because I saw him wear them.
Oh.
And he's like, nah, man, I just got these. I was like, boy, you ain't never had no shoes.
Tale as old as time.
You ain't never had no fresh shoes like that.
Bold. That's
Yeah,
really
Wow.
it was very bold.
It's the I'm gonna help you look.
Right. That's the scam part.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is the scam. That's for
Wait,
sure.
did
Wow.
y'all not have like closed lockers with locks?
No, we didn't have locks. We weren't allowed to have locks.
Yeah.
What?
No, so, I mean, I
Nah,
was
it's-
when I think.
people's bringing weapons to school. So.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah, when I think back to my time in Quaker school, we had open cubbies and an honor system, so we were
Oh wow.
allowed to.
Honor system.
We had locks in Fulton County.
Gwinnett
Combination
Gwinnett
lock.
County wasn't having none of that.
Yeah.
Not in the football locker room anyway.
Oh, but like your regular lockers, you could have a lock or
Yeah.
not. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, even our PE lockers. You
Yeah.
can bring your own lock.
Yeah. Same with my school. Sorry.
That's
to that
treacherous.
man.
Did you fight him? Did you get your
Um,
shoes back? What
nah,
happened?
I'm not a fighter. I did take. I mean, okay. I wasn't a fighter then. But yeah, we had a confrontation, and I scuffed the shoes.
Oh wow, you scuffed them.
Like they ain't fresh no more.
Right.
Jeez.
Damn.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that was that.
Damn.
I'm sad no one talked about them doing a scam like on someone else. Like
No, not on
we all
camera.
know scam.
Yeah.
Not trying to
Yeah.
incriminate herself.
Yeah.
Not on the pod.
Well, we
If I would
plan-
have ever scammed, I would have been a successful scammer.
We're planning to scam the U.S. government.
Yeah.
I have a friend. I can talk about a friend scam. I won't say his name, and then we can move on. So, me and a group of guys, we went to a Jay-Z concert. We drove to Kentucky from Atlanta. Yeah, it was like a college tour that he was doing. Wale and J. Cole opened up for him, and then Jay-Z performed.
that's
It was a
nice.
great show. So we drive up, drive back. He calls his bank. He's like, "Hey, I see all these charges for gas, like all the way into Kentucky. I've been in Atlanta all weekend. I don't know what's happening." And they refunded all of his money.
Oh.
Damn.
It's a great
Real.
scam.
Great.
But then you have to
Yeah.
get a new card, but that's not that.
That's
No,
not that big of a deal.
no, that's fine.
No.
And you know what? Fuck these banks too. So
Yeah.
they deserve it.
I like it. Anti-establishment.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about some health.
Some health shit.
Speaking of establishment,
Yeah, in the government. Oh yeah, that's a smooth transition. So our topic today is about the different levels of government and some recent things that they've been passing, bills and stuff that they've been passing, and how it affects our health. So we're gonna kind of talk about like different examples, different cases that have gone through recently, and how we should be thinking about it as Black communities. And the implications for health. So I'll turn it over to Khadijah to kind of ground us.
So, and we've touched on policy or like specific policies before on the podcast, but we really wanted to focus just an entire podcast episode on policies and politics and how they impact health. So it's this concept called political determinants of health, and it's how politics and policies and those decision makers influence our health for the better or worse. And like Paula said, at Black Health, we're specifically interested across levels how these decisions impact the health of Black communities. And we wanted to kind of like break it down by just like U.S. government 101, which actually I never had like a U.S. government class or like
you didn't have a civics class.
A civics, no.
Oh wow.
Y'all know my schooling was a little different.
Yeah.
How long were you in Quaker school?
It was like 4 years.
Okay.
So like high school.
No, it was middle school.
Oh, middle school.
Then
Okay.
high school, I went to a Judeo-Christian private establishment, so we didn't have to follow rules.
The rules.
But also, I know at the state level, like every state. Sorry, this is such a tangent. Every state has different like public school like requirements. So I don't know, like in Virginia, if it's required to do that.
Yeah, I think we had in Georgia's like federal government in 6th grade, and then like state government 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you had to take like a whole bunch of stuff in high school too, like every year. And then did you have to take that 4th grade class, like that My State class, and it was like you had a whole book about Georgia? And,
Nah,
uh,
I missed out on that.
I was at private school then, so it might have just been that. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I went to private school. Huh?
Yeah. Went to a little
Paula, you go to
Christian
private school?
No, I was in public schools. I went to a Smarty Pants public school.
Ooh.
Like you had to test in, but it was still a Detroit public school.
I went to a regular public school.
I went to Old National Christian Academy off Old National Highway.
But anyway, in U.S. Government 101, you learn about the 3 branches of government. So the judicial branch, the courts, and there's lots of happenings at the court level. Our Supreme Court is wilding out, y'all.
Yeah, they're having a good time over there.
Losing their fucking mind.
Getting trips, getting flued out.
Literally.
Yeah.
But between Roe being overturned, affirmative action being overturned, them rejecting student debt relief that we were just talking about, all that stuff impacts health. And the way our courts are set up, like those people can sit in those positions indefinitely.
Until they die.
Yeah, so it's the impact of courts is very can be very detrimental to health. And then at the legislative level, the girls, particularly at the state level, the girlies are acted out as well. These state legislators
Cutting up.
between like all these like anti-DEI bills and higher ed. I think we'll touch on that a little bit. I think Matthew was talking a little maybe about affirmative action, all related. At like the state legislative level, to legislations that are putting restrictions on gender affirming care. The state legislators are doing a lot right now. And then the executive branch. So that's like the president's office and the governor's office and our city offices. There's a lot happening, for better or worse. On the plus side, I want to shout out, I don't think anyone's talking about this, or Mercy's talked a little bit about this, but recently the FDA just approved the first ever over-the-counter birth control pill.
They did.
Yeah, which is huge. We also had approval for over-the-counter Narcan as well. So those are positive things that can reduce barriers, improve access to care. So those are great things.
And did both of those come out of the executive branch? Yeah.
Yeah. And then also across the executive branch, those leaders can do these things, pass these orders called executive orders, where they don't have to go through the legislative or judicial branches or those checks and balances. So we've had some positive health protective executive orders come out of the Biden administration as a response to the courts. Really oppressive recent rulings. But we've also had a lot of backlash at the state level and a lot of executive orders, like that man in Florida, around anti-wokeness. Matthew and I were just talking about, there's an article I got to send y'all, anti-racism.
Oh, God. So racist?
Exactly.
So,
Racism.
Like
racism.
they cancel out to just
But
make
just
racism.
like this pushback against wokeness and anti-racism, and a lot of that pushback is happening at the executive branch level through these orders that governor's offices can just push out. So we wanted to talk about all that, and we each have kind of like a case example that we want to share. So I'm thinking maybe we could start with Matthew, because I know you want to talk. You ready? You ready? You get me ready?
Yes.
About the courts, the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So Supreme Court decides major laws that will then be sort of federally applied across our country, and so they often hear cases that may start in a lower court, so maybe a city court, a state court, and then rise to the Supreme Court. And one such case was on affirmative action. And so, you hear affirmative action, you think about education, you think about mainly college admissions, but there are a lot of connections that we see to health and health outcomes. And so ultimately, a case was brought before the Supreme Court. I think the Harvard one was actually by this Asian man, and there's a whole conversation that we can have about this BIPOC grouping and who really supports Black people, but that's probably for another podcast. But essentially the Supreme Court decided that affirmative action can no longer apply to college admissions, which means that a lot of the protections people had for historically being underserved, not admitted, Black people not being allowed to go to these colleges, those protections are no longer there, which has a huge risk for many different reasons. I think first, when we think about medical school, we know that Black doctors, I think, are like 5% of all doctors, and so if we don't have Black people getting admitted to medical school, we'll have less Black doctors. And one, that just creates an environment where, white people, non-Black people are reaffirming their biases in these schools, creating, doing more harm. We're on a whole project right now trying to reduce bias in the healthcare setting, specifically by targeting medical schools. But if you don't have Black people in those contexts providing those perspectives, then we're just going to have people going in thinking that Black people have thicker skin or don't feel pain or any number of things. And so, it just creates an environment in the actual schools where people aren't learning about the communities that Black people come from. And then secondly, once they leave that school and become physicians, we know that Black people and really all people prefer to see physicians of their same race. They have better outcomes. They rate the experiences as higher quality care. And so what we'll see, I think, is just more disparities, right? We'll have interactions once we get into these clinical settings where, bias will exist. We won't be treated fairly. And we'll just have poorer experiences, and we won't be believed when we go to these physician offices. So this is going to have a long-term impact. I think there's going to be a huge lag before we actually see it, but I do think the reduction potentially in the number of Black doctors coming out of medical schools is going to have a really huge impact on our experiences with healthcare systems.
For sure.
I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that schools will kind of figure out ways to get around this. It sounds like I think Harvard has kind of released some statements about, we'll follow the rule, because it's like you just can't consider race, but you can consider but you can consider other factors. We can use proxies for race, but I mean, it's definitely still going backwards. When racism is what's happening, what's functioning here as the problem, then to have to ignore race and the impacts of racism on certain communities that's going in the opposite direction than where we want to go. But hopefully, people at these schools, I hope that they will figure out other ways to kind of ensure that Black and other marginalized students still get get into the schools to help mitigate these issues. But who knows? It might be some schools do it and some schools don't. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't trust these institutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that like we honestly, the whole reason why HBCUs was created, like it's just being revitalized. Like, okay, we got to start going back to these institutions that were
Yeah.
created for us to go to, because once again, they don't want us at their schools.
Yep.
So go to HBCUs, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Khadijah mentioned that article about anti-racism, and I think what we're actually seeing, and the article mentioned it, is that there's this notion among a large swath of white people that racism is over, right?
Yeah.
That you know, all racism really exists in small pockets, and we even see that in some of the interactions we have with people who come to us for workshops, right? They're really looking at, how do I teach my staff to not be racist at an individual level, rather than thinking through the structures that have an impact on race and racism. And so I think once we, I think what we'll have a challenge with going forward is really, you know, convincing people that structural racism is still an issue and still exists. Because we are seeing a lot of pushback on that. They're like, oh, there's like a few people that are racist, but they don't have any power. It's not really real. And so I think we'll have to think strategically about that. You know, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that like I've also been seeing this conversation about how like white people are now oppressed and marginalized because everyone's so woke now. And I hate that they're using woke like that.
Yeah.
They don't use it right.
It's the worst. I hate that they've taken that term from us.
Me too. Like they take everything.
Yeah. One last point that I will bring up on that Supreme Court decision is that, you know, just not medical students are going to be, medical school students are going to be affected. We know that, you know, there are strong linkages between well-being and like economic mobility. And so oftentimes wealthier people who have money are able to access more health resources. They live in neighborhoods that, you know, cater to their health a bit more. And college is still one of the primary mechanisms for people to get additional money, bring themselves out of poverty. And so by limiting, again, the number of Black people who are able to go to college because of affirmative action, I think we'll also see less people be able to afford things like insurance, get a job where they can get insurance because insurance is tied to your employment. And so I think widely we'll see across demographic folks who are unable to be employed to, you know, move along the ladder that is capitalism, that we'll just see, you know, bad health effects or negative health effects because of that as well. So yeah, you know, this is, you know, really a potential issue that could have some long-term effects for Black folks. But I do think, again, seeking out those institutions that are for us, that are built for us, are going to be really important, and then continuing to, you know, organize and advocate for ourselves.
Absolutely. And Mercy, I know you also had a topic related to the courts and reproductive health. Did you want to talk about that?
Yes, I'll just touch on it. I know we've talked about this before on the podcast, and we talk about it just like often in general, but obviously, you know, Roe v. Wade was overturned, so there's like a federal ban on like abortions, and so they basically have left it up to the states to decide how they want to proceed with that. And so the issue is a lot of southern states, of course, it's always the southern states, have very strict bans on abortions. A lot of them have criminalization that comes along with it for the physician and for the person seeking services, or for anyone who helps them seek services. And so the whole thing is just ridiculous, because we know that like banning abortions isn't going to stop abortions. It's just going to stop safe abortions. So now we're going to start having more back alley abortions back before Roe v. Wade. And we know that it's going to have a burden on Black women. And so there's we're going to see higher rates of morbidity and mortality related to pregnancy, because now women are going to be forced to carry pregnancies that they may have not gone through with. Then that then causes a burden on an already exhausted healthcare system. Like my doctor told me the other day that like right now the hospital is probably like the least safe place you could be because of burnout, lack of resources, tons of things.
Wow.
there's going to be negative economic consequences, because if you have someone who's already living in poverty, now they have a child that is now going to be growing up in poverty, and it's just going to continue the cycle. And then also you have like this whole now criminalization aspect of it, which again, we know criminalization of any type is always going to disproportionately Black and brown communities. So yeah, it's just really, you know, again, we see that there was a study that found that a total abortion ban in the U.S. would increase the number of pregnancy-related deaths for Black women by 33%.
Wow. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Very scary. It's like Black women are already 3 to 4 times more likely to die. So you're just going to toss on another 33% of Black women on top of that. And you know, there's also studies for the economic impact that, you know, women who will have more financial debt, because now you have these hospital bills from having this pregnancy, from having a child. Like, that is expensive.
If you weren't ready, or
if you're not
planning
ready,
that for your life,
you know. And so it's really a topic where you have these people in Supreme Court who you said can be there until they die. Why? I don't think you should be able to be in any job that long. Like, I'm questioning your decision making skills at that age, because I mean, like, your brain, it doesn't work the same.
And they literally stay there till they die.
Literally till they die. They look like they on deathbed. Some of them looking real decrepit.
I feel like I've told you guys, like, my whole thing, like, this is a conspiracy. Like, it's like literally like they're all in cahoots. Like, that's what they're finding out. Like, these Supreme Court justices that have been having all of this stuff, these schooling and vacations funded by these, like, you know, secret donors and stuff like that. Like, these people have an agenda, and their agenda is to oppress society as much as possible. You know, all the people who are not at their echelon, their level, like, they want them to be oppressed. They want them to be unhealthy. They want them to not have agency. They want women to continue having babies so that they can't be in the workforce. They can't make money, things like that. And so that they can just build this underclass. Like, that's all that they want. They want to keep their underclass to fill their factories and, you know, keep their billionaire status, like, to keep going, you know, with that. Like, they want their consistent, like, that's what capitalism is, right? Like, they want to be able to just continue to profit off of the labor of other people, and they need those people. So us having choices and when we give birth and things like that means, like, that's less people for them to, like, use for their, you know, fill their pockets, basically. So because this is all coordinated.
Access
to
all of this stuff that they're banning for everyone else. And it's just like, you're supposed to be a representative of the people, and you're serving your own best interest, because all the men up there, they will never have to make the decision to have an abortion.
Right.
And for when people say, oh, I'm against it, that's great. Don't have one. You can't impose your beliefs onto someone, just like I can't impose mine onto you. So it's just like,
it is a normal medical procedure. That's like saying, like, I'm against stitches. Like, it's just not, it's not even, the fact that we are even debating it as a moral issue is part of the conspiracy. Like, seriously.
Because it even impacts women who have miscarriages, because the procedure to remove the fetus that has died is an abortion. And so that even impacts women being able to get that. Like, doctors have said they've been scared to do that. I was reading an article where a woman said that she was forced to, like, carry her dead baby inside of her for like 2 weeks because they couldn't do the procedure. And it's like, that can cause her health issues, because you have this non-living being in your body now. So it's just like, what there is no benefit to doing this outside of people just trying to stroke their own egos. And that's not what this is about. So to your point earlier, Khadijah, you know, the executive branch, President Biden has signed a few executive orders to make access to contraception easier, since we can know, you know, abortion access has suffered. So if we can have at least access to contraception, then hopefully we can prevent pregnancy and won't be need to seek abortion services. And so it is a good thing that, like, we do have this new over-the-counter birth control, which is great, because we know a lot of times, like, even getting to the doctor to get a prescription for birth control and then going to the pharmacy. That can all be a toll and be a lot of barriers for someone. So if you can just walk into the pharmacy, get what you need, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
and it's also like it's a burden on the health system because, like, you know, there's this app, I forgot, Nurx is what I've used, because I've used that app to like get birth control like through the app or whatever, but you still have to have like this fake appointment with the doctor. Like, it's not fake, it's a real appointment, but the doctor's just like, hey, I want birth control. Okay. Like, so it's like just wasting all of our times. Like, I've been saying, like, why couldn't I just go get this, like, you know, over the counter? You know, it's not that big of a deal.
Especially if you can get emergency contraception over the counter, then, like, but I know they're going to start attacking that next, because I've already heard talks that, like, GLP is, like, trying to come down on birth control and condoms. And I'm like, so what? Yes, to your point, they just
it's a conspiracy.
Once you have children,
have babies that
they
you can't
want
afford.
us, yes, exactly, and they try to like wrap it up in this Christian.
But they don't
Y'all
wanna
seen
give
that documentary?
government assistance.
It's a documentary on YouTube how it's like a small Christian group that runs our entire country.
I mean,
Can't you tell?
I was gonna say, I mean,
Like, seriously,
It would make
it was
sense.
actually scary. I was like, what?
like, I feel like we all need like little koofies right now.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Mercy X.
Why does that band remind me of Nancy Pelosi? You remember Summer 2022?
Oh yes, girl.
When they
Where
were
they,
kneeling.
they had on the
Kente
masks
cloths.
with the kente cloths,
Yeah.
and they were kneeling.
was that Juneteenth? Or
I
was
don't
it
know.
Black History
Ooh.
Month?
Performance.
One
One of those. One of those.
Oh, real quick, I was gonna ask, do you know which birth control it is? That's
I think it's like a new one.
It's a new
It's one that I
brand,
haven't heard
okay.
of before.
Okay.
So I think it's new, because I don't think it's as much hormone that's in like a over the counter birth control.
or prescription.
Yeah.
Prescription.
sorry,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I see.
My bad.
Okay.
That's in like a prescription birth control, which is good, because like I know my OBGYN is always an advocate for like low hormone birth control, because we just really don't know the long term impacts of what birth control is going to do to Black women, particularly. Even though I think fibroids and birth control, I think that shit's connected.
That's your scientific.
Analysis. That's my hypothesis.
Your spidey
We'll cite your
senses.
sources.
Your spidey senses are
Me.
telling you. Yeah. I
I
think
be
it's
talking to
perms, but maybe
women.
not.
I mean,
You
probably.
said perms?
Yeah, that's what
I
they're
mean,
saying.
it's
Like,
perms
Yeah,
relaxers,
it will-
relaxing your hair.
And me and Paula have been starting to engage more with like the impact of like endocrine
Disrupting
chemicals.
Yeah,
CDC,
there you go,
there you go. And so those
Yeah.
already relate to hormones, and those do then impact like fibroids and stuff like that. But yeah, to your point, Paula, in terms of just the conspiracy and all that stuff, I do think it's important to note that for both affirmative action and Roe, and both of those being overturned, that didn't just happen overnight. This is something that, like Paul, you mentioned, these like conservative small groups have been working towards for decades.
Absolutely.
And so the case at Harvard, the case at UNC, the case that they put forward for Roe, like where they're just like cases that these groups like use, but because the courts
put money
are
behind.
put the money behind, but because the court is the current structure it is, and you know, lots of people advocating for abolishing the courts, it's the perfect time for them to pass all these things they've been waiting for decades to pass.
I mean, that's why the orange man got elected, because he was the one who came up in there and threw all them people on the Supreme Court so that they could make
that's
these
his like
decisions.
biggest legacy.
That is.
Yeah.
It's literally going to have
How many- you got
decades
two
long
or three?
implications.
He
Two,
had
I believe.
Two.
two, yeah.
And then they didn't let Obama. That was crazy.
But even like the local courts, I think he's
Yeah.
appointed most local courts ever by a president. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the courts.
a hot mess.
Yeah.
A hot mess. Like, yeah.
So I did want to pivot a little bit. So we've been talking about the courts a bit, and kind of those like at the federal level, how that impacts folks in states, but I want to get super local and talk about Atlanta and what's been happening here, and talk about the Stop Cop City movement. Have y'all heard? Are you engaged, familiar?
Yes.
Y'all sign that petition.
Yeah.
Stop Cop City.
Yeah, Stop Cop City. So for folks that aren't from Atlanta or that aren't aware, we did want to give a little bit of a primer and then connect it all back to health. So currently the city of Atlanta is has a proposed investment of over $90 million for a police training facility that we are calling Cop City. This proposed police training facility is really kind of a perfect case example of the convergence of state-sanctioned violence and police violence, racial violence, environmental racism, capitalism, racial capitalism, and just like decades of disinvestment, displacement in Black communities in Atlanta. And so in terms of the kind of police violence, state-sanctioned violence piece, Atlanta, even though we're kind of known as a Black Mecca and we have Black leaders across decision-making levels, from the legislative side to our city council to the governor's office, we also have one of the most extensive carceral systems in the entire country. I don't know, this is not funny, but it's just, it gets me excited because it's just so much to unpack. But so did y'all know Atlanta's the most surveilled city in the entire country?
I actually didn't know that.
I didn't.
We have more cameras watching us
than
than anywhere else in this
Yeah, I think
entire
that happened
country.
like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
There's hella cameras everywhere.
So with that, in addition to, despite all this rah-rah during 2020 around, folks really advocating for defunding the police, our police budget has expanded. Actually, maybe today we'll follow up, but the Fulton County Commissioners are opposed to approve a $1.7 billion new jail to replace Fulton County Jail. Yeah.
No, I knew they were going to do that because they done built them $700,000 condos that's overlooking Rice Street, and you can't. Them white people don't want to look at Rice Street in their backyard. I knew they were going to fucking do that. Okay, I'm sorry.
So they're getting rid of that jail and moving it somewhere else?
They're getting rid. They're gonna build a new one.
Whole new swanky brand new jail.
Yeah. And even like with that the current Fulton County Jail, there's been very public recent incidences of people like dying there from the like awful and inhumane conditions.
Yeah.
I don't believe that bed bug story though.
Yeah,
they said someone
killed him.
Died of bed bugs.
They said the bed bugs killed him, and I'm like, nah. I ain't never. Nah,
and I mean, how horrible were the bed bugs then? Because that's also just human rights violations.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, all of the human rights violations in jails. People, human beings die in jails all the time. Abolition. Anyway, and then as it pertains to Cop City, even though it hasn't been built yet, there's already been someone who was murdered.
Yep.
Tortuguita Teran, who's a queer indigenous Venezuelan forest defender. And they were murdered by the police defending the forest against the building of Cop City. All the state-sanctioned kind of carceral violence there. But this is also really important because this is an environmental racism issue.
Yeah.
So in order to build Cop City, it would require the destruction of over 381 acres of forest land. in the Walani Forest, which is known as the lungs of the city. So Atlanta always boasts about all of the trees we have, the city of trees, and how important that is to our ecosystem. But we have our leadership actively wanting to destroy those trees. And also the location of where they're trying to build it is in a majority Black area, deeply disinvested area in DeKalb County that's already surrounded by carceral facilities like we just talked about, industrial waste producing sites. So Atlanta, across Georgia, but specifically in Atlanta, we have EPA designated hazardous sites still here that are polluting the environment and disproportionately impacting Black communities that live near them. There's already a shooting range in that area. And that forest is home to one of the 10 most endangered rivers in the U.S., kind of in that area. So this destroying that forest land and the environment around it is directly going to impact air, land, and water pollution, flooding. And for folks that aren't in Atlanta, flooding is awful here.
Flash flooding?
Yeah.
Wow. It's been bad lately with these storms, too.
So it's like
really
climate catastrophes already happening, but trees are there to help.
Yeah,
with
like
a lot
somewhat
of
a buffer.
Yeah.
So we need all the trees we can get.
Yeah.
And just in general, destroying like safe green spaces that we know are health promoting for police playground is problematic. And so all of these convergences have an impact on downstream health outcomes and disproportionately will impact Black poor folks in Atlanta. So from the kind of environmental side, again, the destruction of that forest will impact kind of pollution and flooding and all of that stuff. And we know that there's a link between pollutant and cancer. And at Black Health, we've been doing a lot of work around cancer disparities and kind of our environmental conditions directly impacts our exposure to pollutants that can worsen our cancer outcomes. And also in terms of like respiratory conditions like asthma, where Black folks already experience really drastic disparities in terms of asthma incidents and hospitalizations and deaths, destroying green space, destroying trees, fresh air, is directly going to impact our health from that side. And then there's a lot of research coming out about the impacts, the health effects of police violence, how police violence negatively impacts our health. So from like the mental health side, just surveillance and over policing increases our stress levels, our anxiety levels, cortisol. It's trauma, like it's traumatic.
I can see that.
You never relax when you see
And I could definitely see that, like, since, you know, living in South Africa, like, I tell my friends in Johannesburg all the time, like, you guys just don't know, like, the police are here and they're annoying. They'll bribe you or they'll take bribes and stuff like that. So they're corrupt in some ways, but they're just not like,
they're everywhere.
All that surveillance, all that stuff, like, it's just not on that level. And I'm like, it just feels different. Like, it really does feel, even like since I've gotten back, I'm like always like, oh God, this big ass police car, like, everywhere. Get out of here. Like, like, just very intimidating.
I had a cop ride past me. I was walking down the street in my neighborhood the other day. Cop drove past and he was like slow creeping. So at first I'm like, who is this slow creeping behind me? And then I see, oh, it's APD. That's weird. He drives by, then he busts a U-turn, creeps back up again, kind of stops in front of me and looks at me, then drives down, bust another U-turn. I was like, okay, see, if this was a regular car, I would have been bolted by now. But
Yes.
I definitely would have ran.
I was like, why is he being weird? Like, what the fuck
Out
is
of
going
there.
on? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just walking
He
to my
probably
car.
just trying to fuck with you or something. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's all. But you, like you said, Paula, like you can feel the police presence. Like you see it, you feel it, and that increases you're always on.
Yeah,
Alert.
I did not feel safe
Yeah.
with him riding next to me like that. I'm like, you making me nervous.
Yeah. So those are some of the mental health effects, and then in terms of physical health, there's some recent studies that show that police violence and just police presence is linked to cardiovascular disparities and poor cardiovascular health, which makes sense because stress.
Yeah, stress is linked to that.
Yeah, is directly linked to that. There's also been studies that have linked police violence to adverse birth outcomes and really connected for black birthing people, how that impacts that, and again, stress, negatively impacts our birth outcomes. And then in terms of physical health, being murdered, literal violence, literal physical violence,
being beat up,
So yeah, this is we wanted to bring this up because police violence, environmental racism, these are health justice issues, and Cop City and the building of it is a health justice issue.
And it's so much damn money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, which also could be invested into housing, healthcare,
right.
schools.
So many. We have a list. A long list besides building Cop City and that new fucking jail.
Yeah, things that are actually going to improve communities, improve people's health.
Mm-hmm. Because we know what works. We know that having social services helps. Communities thrive. But instead we invest in...
No,
conspiracy.
yeah, and they're saying part of the Cop City stuff is that like it's just going to be a training ground for like police all over the country to come and play with all the surveillance that they have access to here in Atlanta and see how they're going to actually start stopping protests, like organized action and stuff. So they're kind of now planning for the revolution, I guess, that they're expecting to happen as they continue to further oppress us. And so they're bulking up, getting their police force all trained up and ready to beat our asses in the streets when the time comes. And has been coming. It's been here.
Like, they're preparing for something.
Like
police state, hello, is that
so who knows? They're gonna probably have all types of drones and little fucking robots and no,
shit. Like
they full of shit.
Drones that look like bugs or some shit.
But I did want to uplift that even though all this awfulness around Cop City is happening, there's been a very intense movement happening around stopping Cop City, both at the local level. So residents in Atlanta, around Atlanta have really come together, like folks that are really engaged in the environmental justice side have been advocating against it from that point of view. Folks that are on kind of the abolition, anti-carceral state side have come together around this. Folks that are on the health side, folks that live right next to where it will be built. We're all going to be impacted by it. So we have seen this mobilization across the city, across races, across backgrounds, across professions, coming together to really advocate to stop Cop City. And this has gotten a lot of national and international attention as well, and will continue to. Like, I really think right now, Atlanta is at the epicenter of a huge movement. And we saw record numbers of public comments at the Atlanta City Council, really vocalizing residents' desire for this not to be built. I was watching some of the city council public comments on YouTube. And it was really energizing to see a bunch of young people, a bunch of students, really talking, expressing their desire for this not to be built. But the Atlanta City Council did not listen.
It's like so bizarre. It's like, what? Y'all work for the people, right?
They work for the police.
So the city council did approve the budget. However, and I think Matthew, you mentioned this earlier, there is an attempt to bring this to a public vote. So we want to flag for any of our listeners, if you are a current resident of the city of Atlanta, and importantly, if you have registered to vote in the city of Atlanta as of October 2021, you are eligible and have the opportunity to sign a petition to get a referendum on the ballot of this November's election so that the people can vote on if this gets approved and if we move forward with Cop City. So if you want more information about that, you should visit copcityvote.com. And we'll include some more info in the show notes. But yeah, the people don't want this built.
Yeah.
Stop Cop City.
But speaking of kind of upcoming elections, Paula, did you want to
just
close
wanna,
us out?
Sure. Just so you all know, 2024 is an election year. So we will be electing the president of the United States. And so, right. And so, yeah, just wanted to flag that it's not only Biden versus Trump, maybe. Yeah, right. Because he's on his third indictment. Right. So we'll see how that goes. But it's not only going to be a presidential election. Also, there will be House members and senators up for election as well. So just with all of these issues that we've discussed today, we highly encourage you all to go research in your state, also your local city elections, things like that. Like go and research who it is that are pushing the agendas for us to not all be oppressed, and vote for those people when the time comes, and particularly 2024, as we were just mentioning, all the power that the president does hold actually to make decisions across the other branches of government and impact our lives. It's a very important election, and so we need all hands on deck, everyone engaged. So anything else on that?
Your vote does matter.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
It does. Don't let them
we
lie to
barely scraped by
Barely.
the last election.
Barely. The old folks say about the skin of your teeth, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Are you closing us out, Matthew?
Yeah, that's fine. It's been the Black Health Podcast. Make sure you follow us at BLKHLTH. We're on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn if you like it there, and the Clock app as well. We're on TikTok. We have some cool events coming up in the fall, so really stay tuned for those. We'll be announcing a new campaign as well in the fall. Really excited for that to launch, so make sure that you stay tuned to all of our socials. We'll be posting about those events and those opportunities there. As always, if you have any recommendations, things that you want to hear about, that you think we should be speaking about, please let us know. And until then, we'll talk to y'all soon.
Wait, so where will we be? Going to Detroit?
We're going to
DC.
Detroit, DC. We'll also be here in Atlanta. So look out for us.
Yeah, we'll be in your city.
Coming soon.
Pull up.
All right, that's a wrap. Bye. Bye.